Hey, my name is TJ. I'm a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I haven't had a drink or a drug since August 9th, 2016. I'm here hosting the Recovery Matters podcast with
Meghan Blanchette.
Hey, Megan. So you're a person in recovery?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am a person in long-term recovery. When I first got sober, it was June of 2015.
Okay.
June 4th of 2015, to be exact. And I have been in recovery ever since. I did have a slip with some medication that was prescribed to me that I had a surgery back in December of 2019. The medication was prescribed. I took it technically as prescribed on the bottle, but I was sneaky about it with the people that were looking over the medication for me. So at that point in time, I was talking to my sponsor. I am in a 12-step program and I have a sponsor, and she said, you can really make the decision. Like, if you want to reset your date, you are, if you talk to 50 people in the program, half of them are going to say you don't have to because you didn't take a drink or because you didn't take it outside of what the bottle said. But, your motives and your ambitions were a little sneaky. So that's up to you. And I hemmed and hawed about it for a couple of days. And then I was talking to another person in my network about it. And she said, do you want to do what feels good or do you want to do what feels right? And so that is when I made the decision to reset my date. So my sobriety date is December 31st of 2019. But I really have been here since June of 2015, but my sobriety has not been continuous if you are counting motives and addict behavior.
I respect that. When I was 30 days sober, I went into treatment July 9th of 2016. When I was 30 days sober, I was designated driving for some people. Acid came out, and I was like, I could take a couple hits. Listen, Bill Wilson, blah, 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 blah. Like this whole thing around basically justifying it. I took it, had a good experience. I didn't get high for a couple hours. I went home, and then I kind of tripped in bed, and I was laying there and I was like, I don't ever want to do drugs or alcohol ever again in my entire life. It wasn't a bad trip. It wasn't a bad experience. I kind of woke up the next day and I was like, wow, that was great. And then I didn't tell anybody about it for 5 full years.
Wow.
And at 5 years sober, I had a 13-month year because I said that when I was about 30 days sober, I hit a couple hits of acid and it was the right thing to do. And I want to be honest. And do you want to be honest and free, or do you want to, how did you say that?
The person asked me, do you want to do what feels good or do you want to do what feels right?
I like that.
Yeah. And it was definitely a slice of humble pie, right? I was coming up on 5 years. I was, I went into meetings raising my hand saying that I was coming back.
Wow.
It was definitely a humbling experience. But I will say that I did finally hit my 5 years this past December.
Nice. Congratulations.
And, thank you. I have never regretted the decision, to be honest. And I've never regretted any time I've ever been honest, unless maybe it hurt somebody else in the process. But this wasn't one of those times.
Yeah. I totally understand as a person who felt like I had to call everybody and tell them this big thing. Everybody's like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, we love and accept you.
Yep.
And today, having been through that, I can support other people in a different way, right? You can look at people who have they picked up that for a period of time or whatever, and they're totally ram themselves through the ringer, and it's like, hey, I've done this horrible thing, and it's like, no, you're just like me, and you're gonna be okay, and I'm glad you're here, and thank you for being honest, but I still love you, and we can take that massive monkey off somebody's back by sharing our experience.
Absolutely. And that's the purpose of it, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I first started coming back, I wouldn't get coins for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And because I was like, I've been here for almost 5 years. And plus I'm just really ashamed and I don't, and my sponsor looked at me and said, you're not picking up coins for you. You're picking up coins for everybody else in the room so that they can see you pick them up. So you're going to get your coin. And I said, okay,
all right,
that's what I'm going to
do. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a really good experience to share with people and stuff. And I think that, it's a valuable experience, right? That we're not cured, we're not fixed, we're not whatever, right? We can fall into this way of thinking that can lead us back to a drink or a drug very, very quickly, right? And like that's why it's important for us to be open and honest.
Absolutely. I did so much work before because I knew I was going to have to take the medication because the surgery was extensive.
Oh yeah.
And I initially told my doctor, no, I'm in recovery. I can't take opiates because, opiates are my drug of choice. And, I said, I can't do that. And she said, you have to. Like you're not, the pain is going to be too great if you don't take them. And so I made a plan. I talked to my sponsor. I wrote to my higher power. I did all of these things leading up to it to try to prepare myself and my disease for the sort of what I like to call the awakening of the beast.
Yep.
Right? Because it doesn't matter if it's prescribed or not. Once I feel those opiates hit my system, the beast is awake. Right? So I did all this preparation for it. And my disease, it is progressing. Even when I'm sober, my disease is progressing. And it is an absolute miracle that, what happened is what happened and not something far worse.
Yep.
And it's not a miracle I performed. That was my higher power for sure.
Yeah. I think about probably 1 million people in recovery from opiate addiction, right? Whatever their pathway may be, this is something that they could easily face in day-to-day life, right? And health and wellness and trying to get better and, gym injuries and regular injuries and just standard health practices. People need surgery, right? Like this is a good topic to talk about. How do you think that so let me ask you this. If somebody was going to prepare to have a surgery or some type of medical procedure where they required opiates, what do you think they could do to help them to help support themselves during that?
So I'll tell you what happened with me. The bottle said I could take 1 to 2.
Okay.
I asked my partner to dispense 1 at a time to me because I didn't want to go higher than that. I mean, these were 5 milligrams. Like, it's not like they were really strong. But I asked him to dispense 1 at a time to me. And he said absolutely. He was willing to do what he needed to do to be supportive. And it was like the 3rd day, maybe post-surgery, and he handed me 1, and then he walked away. And I put it like underneath something. And then when he gave me the next one, I took them together.
Okay.
Now, the bottle said that I could take 2, which is what was happening in my brain. But also, in answer to your question, if I were ever to have a surgery again that I needed opiates, which I would accept them, but I would just make sure that, someone was monitoring them for me and I didn't have access to the bottle. This may sound crazy, but I would literally have him watch me put it in my mouth.
Yeah.
That's how I would, not have, because, he just walked away. He was like, oh, here's your 1. And then he turned around and I was like, whoop, put it right in my pocket, and this disease is cunning and baffling and powerful. And, all of the work that I did and all of the recovery that I had at that point, it didn't matter. I'm still an addict at the end of the day. I'm an addict in recovery, and that's amazing and beautiful. But my disease doesn't mean it goes away.
Yep. You need to be hyper vigilant.
Yeah, for sure.
We were talking about this at the Young People's All Recovery meeting last night. And like one of the things people were talking about is the mindset in which they so you get into recovery and you like having to let go of the old way of thinking, right? And the mindset we need going forward. One of the things I was talking about is positivity, right? So when I was using substances, I was in a negative mindset 24/7.
Yes.
It was a pity party. Everything was about me, selfish, self-centered. It didn't matter how about anybody else felt, and it just constant negativity. Today, as a person in recovery, I need to try to be hyper positive, like regardless of whatever, right? Like it's that power of positive thinking. And if I go through a day with negative thinking one time, like I might not drink, right? I might not pick up opiates, right? But I'm definitely heading in that direction.
Yeah.
And it's that one step in the wrong direction could lead me, like I need to be positive 24/7, right? Like Absolutely. It might not be what takes me out today, but like I'm working my way there.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. Gratitude is so important. They say a grateful heart never drinks, right?
I like that.
When I have a choice what I focus my energy on. And if I am focusing my energy on the things that are going wrong in my life, I become resentful, I become angry, and all of these things get me so much closer to picking up a drink or a drug. When I focus on the things that I have to be grateful for, and sometimes when things are hard, because being in recovery doesn't mean my life is easy all the time.
Yep.
There are times when things get really hard.
Yes.
But if I focus on what I am grateful for. Sometimes it's as simple as I'm grateful I woke up this morning. I'm grateful that there's a roof over my head, and I'm grateful that there's food in the fridge. Like, it could be so simple. Sometimes it's more complex. But I have a group of friends that I'm in recovery with that we share our gratitude every morning
I like
via
that.
text message, because it's so important. And if I choose to focus on the positive, I believe that more positive comes my way. The mindset is the most important thing, for sure.
I completely agree. I think that as an ex-opiate user, right, and as a person in recovery, like, my life literally depends on positivity,
Yep.
right? I definitely want to hear more about your story and hear more about your recovery process, and thank you for sharing a bunch of stuff with me. Tell me what life was like for you growing up.
I'm an only child.
Okay.
And I now have two stepbrothers,
Okay.
because my parents divorced when I was 5. And, I do believe that I was born with this disease, because even at 5 years old, when my parents were divorced, I thought they were getting divorced because of me. And I know that as a person with the disease of addiction today, it's real easy for me to make things about me, right? And I was doing it even at 5 years old. Not that I can be held accountable or at fault for that, because I was a very small child, but I believe that,
Yep.
I was born with this disease, and the way that my mind works has never been the way of a person without this disease, right? So when I was 5, my parents got divorced, and after that, I think I moved something like 22 times before I graduated high school, because I would go from my mom to my dad, and then my mom would move, and then my dad would move, and then we would stay with my grandparents, and I was all over the state of Connecticut.
Wow.
And being an only child and moving around a lot means that I was constantly having to integrate into new friend groups and new places, and sort of start from scratch. So many kids have, and adults have. This has been my best friend since I was 5. I don't know who those people are or where they are.
Yeah.
Right? But I do. So I had to learn to adapt, and I had to learn to integrate, and it was hard.
Okay.
It was definitely difficult. I have cousins that I'm close to, but we didn't live together and we didn't move together.
Yep.
So I had those constants in my life, but it was difficult. I took my first drink in middle school.
Okay.
I was in 7th grade, and one of my friends had filled up, a water bottle full of gin from her grandparents' liquor cabinet, and she brought it to an after-school basketball game.
Okay.
And we passed it around. It was awful. God, it
Yep.
was so bad. And we passed it around, and we all took sips, until the bottle was gone. It's like a little plastic, water bottle. And I remember some people saying, like, Megan smells like alcohol, or, I was like tripping down the bleachers. I did not get any trouble for that, though. Like, nothing ever really happened. I went home, went to sleep. That was it.
Yep.
I come from a family where this is a family disease.
Yep.
So my father he identifies as an alcoholic. He's been in recovery for about 20 years now, which is amazing.
Okay.
My mom identified as an alcoholic as well. She passed away last year.
Okay.
So not directly from this disease, but kind of as a byproduct. She had a lot of other health issues, and she didn't take care of herself as well as a person could have without this disease, if that makes sense. But this is a family disease. So my parents drank a lot, and I always said, that's not going to be me. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be me. So after I drank in middle school, I did not drink again until later on in high school. And when I started drinking again later on in high school, it's also when I started doing drugs, pot, the occasional cocaine, a little bit of ecstasy, but I don't know how much of it was actually even real. It could have just been whatever. But yeah, that and the first time that I tried opiates was when I had my wisdom teeth out.
Wow. Okay.
And so it was prescribed.
Yep.
But it was glorious.
You knew right then.
Oh, I knew. Back then, they were prescribing strong opiates for wisdom teeth. This was, early 2000s.
Okay.
And my dentist was like an old guy, and he prescribed a very strong opiate for my wisdom teeth removal, and he was giving me refills.
Wow.
And I knew then that, like, this was what I wanted.
Yep.
This was what I really loved. And After I graduated from high school, I did spend all 4 years of high school in the same school.
Okay.
I graduated from high school barely. Prior to starting to do more drugs, I was a person that I got really great grades. I'm intelligent.
Hmm.
But once I started doing drugs, things really started to fall off. And then, after I graduated high school, I went to hairdressing school. I'm a hairstylist now.
Nice.
Or I have a license and I've been a hairstylist for over 20 years. Now I'm breaking into something a little different. But,
Okay.
I have been, my disease just rapidly progressed after graduating high school and moving, through, it got really bad.
Hmm. Do you think like moving around, it was kind of easier for you to fall into those crowds of people that were more like you?
I think so. I mean, when I did most of my moving, I was pretty little,
Yep.
but I did try geographical cures more than once.
Yep.
In the deepest, darkest parts of my active addiction, I tried moving to Boston. I tried moving to Florida, and everywhere went, there I was. Right. So,
Hmm.
like, yes, I found people exactly like me everywhere I went. Once the disease was
Yeah.
in full swing, for sure.
You bring you wherever you go.
Everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And I really thought, like, moving
Hmm.
to these places, that I was gonna, it was gonna be a new start and it was gonna be amazing. But if I don't do any work in here, it doesn't matter where I am.
When did you enter treatment for the first time?
The first time I went to treatment, I was 22, I believe. I'm from Bristol.
Yep.
Well, that's where I graduated high school, and that's where we landed, my family. So I went to the Bristol Hospital, has a unit that's for dual diagnosis.
Yep.
So I went there and I detoxed for the first time. That time, the detox was more like my life was just spinning wildly out of control. I wasn't even that deep into opiates yet. I was really just drinking very heavily and doing a lot of cocaine.
Hmm.
And I was like, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. So I checked myself in. And so that was the first time. When I got out of there, I went to IOP and then went right back to doing what I was doing. And that happened a couple more times throughout
Yep.
the years. The last time that I went to detox was in 2015 when I
Okay.
got sober.
Is that when you looked at your life and you were like, this is a problem for me? Like, I'm ready and willing to change? Or did you have moments before then?
I had moments before then. The first time I went to a meeting, I was 21.
Okay.
My dad was already in meetings. And
Yep.
so he was like, hey, I just called you like on a Tuesday night and you're in your apartment by yourself and you're wasted. So like maybe, I was living in Boston at the time. So like maybe we should do something about that. Maybe you should try a meeting. And I did. I would go to meetings, but then I would just go home and get messed up. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't ready,
Of course.
So yeah, I knew that I had a problem the whole time.
Hmm.
But I couldn't, I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to stop numbing. I wasn't ready to stop running from my problems. But by the time I got in 2015 to that final detox facility, I was homeless. I was living in a tent community in Bristol. I had no access to like running water, so I would
Wow.
like bathe in Burger King bathrooms and the sink,
Hmm.
and I was stealing food to eat, and I was selling narcotics, heroin specifically, in order not to, I wasn't making any money, but
Yep.
in order to get what I needed,
Yep.
right? Like I was just kind of the middleman and I would make a little bit for that.
Yeah.
And it was enough to, I would say 60% of the time, keep me out of withdrawal.
Yeah.
The rest of the time I was just in withdrawal and very miserable.
Yeah. Bring me to that day you found recovery in the beginning in June of 2015.
So I was walking back to my tent with my partner at the time.
Yep.
I had a significant other that was just as deep into his addiction as I was, and things were very toxic between us. Both of us were very toxic to each other.
Hmm.
And we were walking down the street, heading back to the tent, and I had this thought. I was walking down Route 6, which is a busy road in Bristol, and I heard cars coming, and I had this thought that, like, I could really just end this all right now if I jumped in front of a car. Like,
Hmm.
I hear it getting real close, and then I can just jump in the road. And that was the moment for me that I was like, oh shit, Like, this is bad. And meanwhile, the fact that I was walking back to my tent to sleep on a dirty crib mattress that we picked up off the side of the road, that wasn't wild. But this was, right? This was bad. And my mom lived 2 blocks away.
Yep.
I say that my mom identified as an alcoholic, and she did, but she was always able to function. So she always held a job. She always had a home. She always, our addictions looked different, even though they're the same.
Yep.
So she was home, and I called her and I said, I'm ready. And I wasn't allowed to call her because it was too painful prior to that, because all I would do was beg her for stuff until she got so exasperated with me that she would just give in. So she stopped taking my phone calls and she said, do not call me until you're ready. And I did. I called her and I was ready. So I went to detox the next day. I called 211, which, is amazing here in Connecticut. And they hooked me up with a ride to a detox facility in Bridgeport from Bristol.
First step.
So I went to First Step. And when I was at First Step, they were like, what are you going to do after this? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. I could go back to the tent, I guess, but that's probably not going to be the best idea. So that's when they set me up with a bed at Intercommunity, which used to be ICRC.
Yep.
In Hartford at Mount Sinai. So I went there for the 28-day program. Then I did their 90-day program. Then I went to Clayton House, which is a halfway house through Intercommunity in Glastonbury.
Yep.
Then I moved into a sober house for women. Then I got an apartment with another person in my network, another woman in my network in West Hartford. And, it was probably, my gosh, I was sober for almost 4 years before I lived in any situation that wasn't recovery based.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was
That's
good.
really, really good. So I think sometimes people, we make an assumption about somebody in recovery. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's a lot of work to go, like, you really just committed right then and there.
I mean, the reality is I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Right? I had nowhere to go, but I'm so grateful that these things were available to me because not only were they a roof over my head, but I was also beginning to recover, right?
Yes.
I was going to meetings. I found a sponsor. I was working with the counselors in all of these programs that I was in. And I was developing a network of other sober people and really enjoying my life. Like, most people are like, oh, detox was the worst thing. Let me tell you something. First Step was incredible. And I'll tell you why. Because I wasn't in a tent. I had a roof over my head. I had hot food. I had a shower. I had things and I had, medication to help with a rapid detox. And so for me, I had a great time in detox because I wasn't in the struggle anymore.
It was
rest.
over.
I could rest.
Yeah, you felt safe there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, knowing you had nowhere to go, but still wanting to continue the recovery process, finding that inpatient program, going through multiple, and then really doing that step down. Do you think that was something that was very much of a positive impact in your recovery?
Absolutely, without a question. The intermediate program, which is 90 days at Intercommunity, is something that was a choice. I didn't have to do that.
Yep.
Going to the halfway house, Clayton House in Glastonbury, that was a choice. I'll tell you, Clayton House in Glastonbury will forever hold a very special place in my heart because I was 30 years old and I didn't know how to be a grown-up. I didn't know how to live with other grown-ups. I didn't know how to have a bank account. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to do anything. And all of those things I learned there, living in a house with 15 other people in early recovery.
Yep.
And how to handle situations that were tense or difficult or, things like that. Like, it was just that place played an integral part, along with the 12 steps that I was working and with the sponsor and all of that. Like, it was huge for me. And I'm so glad that it happened the way it did.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to know more about your life in recovery today. So you progress on. Tell me about some of the things that you're into in recovery and like some cool supports or your life in recovery that you want to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm still in a 12-step program. I still have a sponsor. I sponsor women. I am a person who goes on a 12-step retreat twice a year. So with some women in my network, we literally rent an Airbnb and we go for 3 days and we work all 12 steps.
Wow.
Every 6 months. And it really helps me to, I don't know if all of your listeners know what the 12 steps are, but part of that is an inventory. Taking an inventory and sharing what has been making my life feel less than manageable over the last 6 months with the people that I'm close to and the people that I love. And, it is I can tell when it's time. We have one coming up in October.
Nice.
And I can tell when it's time because I'm like, oh, I need retreat because I need to write about this and I need to write about this and I need, and then afterwards, I feel like this huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. So that's one thing that I do. I am so blessed and grateful that I am now able to be of service in the community as well.
Wow.
So I am the chairwoman of the board of directors for Intercommunity today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've been on the board of directors for about 9 years now. It's actually my last year because there are term limits.
Wow.
It's funny, the COO of Intercommunity, his name's Tyler, and I told you I'm a hairstylist, and I was working at a Sport Clips Haircuts in Glastonbury when I was living out there, and Tyler came in one day for a haircut, and I recognized him. I said, "You're the guy who brings in sandwiches on Monday night." And he was like, "You live at Clayton House?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So we got to talking, and we just hit it off right away, and he's been a mentor of mine ever since, but he nominated me for the board. He said, we need more patients who are on the board who are not, not that there's anything wrong with doctors and lawyers and whatever, but,
Yes.
People to represent who we actually serve. And so that's when I was nominated for the board, and I felt like I was way out of my depth. I still do sometimes. But at my core, I know that that's my ego. That's not the truth. I am here to be a voice for the people who are living in these facilities. And it's an honor to give back because the organization gave me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really cool.
Tell me about some of the recovery coaching and everything that you do in that realm as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a speaker, a keynote speaker, but I also do smaller events as well. I recently started an LLC. I've been doing this work for some time, but I recently actually launched a business. So you can find me at fiercelymegan.com.
Okay.
Megan with an H. Fiercely has 2 E's because a lot of people get that wrong. But I'm a speaker. I am also a coach. Could be recovery, could be business, what my work centers around is emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And I also facilitate retreats, not necessarily 12-step, although I would, but I wouldn't really feel comfortable taking money for that.
Yes.
But I am a person who wants to share with everybody else because I feel like I have access to this deep healing, this deep introspection and reflection on myself and my life as a result of being a person in recovery and as a result of the depths that I have gone, whether it be in 12-step work or in therapy, to heal.
Yep.
And I believe that this should be accessible to everyone. I don't think that I love that it's accessible to people like you and I, but I really would like for it to be accessible to everyone. So my work centers around emotional intelligence, the tools and things that I have learned as a result of being in recovery, and how those things can be translated into the lives of everyday people.
Yep.
Because we need that right now.
Absolutely.
We really do.
Where can we find you on social media?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, I am Fiercely Megan as well. I do have a TikTok that I use as my platform for Fiercely Megan a little bit, but I am also a makeup content creator on TikTok. So
Nice.
I also do makeup videos. But that is my first and last name, Meghan Blanchette. Or that's my handle there. And then on Facebook, you can find me first and last name as well. But each one of my socials, including my website, have a link tree at the bottom where you can access all of my socials and my contact form and all that.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. My final and favorite question.
Yes.
If somebody walked into this room in their first 24 hours of recovery, what do you think the best piece of support or advice you could give them would be?
I would tell them that they deserve this, that they are worthy of this, because I know that for me, that's how I felt when I got here, was that I didn't deserve to live a life that was any better than the one that I was living. I actually have a tattoo on my arm that says I am enough because I need the reminder. So you are worthy of this. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of a life where you're not running all the time and where you are able to rest and where you are able to be comfortable. You are worthy of that. And you can find that in, whatever your means of recovery is. You can find that. You just got to stick it out and believe in yourself.
Yeah. You're amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.